Let me introduce our panel to you so that you know from whom the information is coming. Starting on my left is Elena Machevska. She is the brand ambassador for Baroli out of Barolo. Then I have Carolina Stupino, who is the owner of Castello di Neve. On my right, we have Lisa Pecanino, part of the family that owns Pecanino. Then we have Gabriele Occhetti. He is part of the family for Giuseppe Cortese wines. And on the very end, we have Haley Black, who is my colleague here at Winebow. She is a fine wine specialist with the Heritage team. She's also an Italian wine expert by the Then Italy International Academy. And I'm Ron Edwards. I'm Director of Wine Education here at Winebow, which is a great privilege. And yes, I'm a master sommelier, but in this panel, I'm not the expert.
I'm going to have an Italian pronounce the Italian version. MGA.
Menzione geografica aggiuntiva.
We have a lot of information to cover, and the general idea is YMGA. Any dancing involved? Not YMCA, YMGA. And the idea is like, why should this matter to you? And more importantly, why should it matter to your clients that an MGA exists and that it might show up on a bottle? And so our point today is to give you some of the logic train and the conversation that you can have after us with clients and with each other about why this matters now and why it will matter probably even more in the future. So that's the goal. Are we good with the goal? Still glad you came?
So 1896 is when Barolo was first delineated. Barbaresco in 1926 to follow. And then it was expanded to include Nieve into the Barbaresco in 1933. And then I think it's important to note that in 1927, is when the Consorzio was formed. So the Producer Association to protect the wines of Barolo and Barbaresco. Fast forward to 1966, that's when both Barolo and Barbaresco became a DOC within Italy. They were two of the first four. And then it was in 1980 when they became a DOCG.
All right. Not sufficiently confused yet? Great, let's move on. It'll get worse. All right.
Renato Ratti, with the Charter of Barolo, started identifying 20 vineyards, classifying them as first and second categories. This classification was simply due to tradition, historicity, and constant quality of the wines produced from there. For us, it's a great value, actually, because in this way, by having this subdivision into MGAs, really allows each parcel to give its personal expression, we can say. So this is due to the fact that the Nebbiolo grape variety has this peculiarity of really giving differerences due to the different combinations of composition of soil, exposure, heights, and the microclimate. So by having this MGA system, really we can express and feel and taste these differences.
Take greatness out of the question and just put in story, and MGA immediately makes sense. Every plot has a story. That real value is directly related to real experience. So that if you think dispassionately about it, and it's not about the dollars or the time or what you invested to have the experience, it's about how you feel about the experience.
I want to say that NGA is a strong link between a special product, in that case Barolo and Barbaresco, and this territory. We don't find in Italy another so small and growing wine growing area that has high variability as Barolo area or Barbaresco area has. This is so special. To have in MGA's classification, we spent a lot of years, was an incredible amount of study, where nothing was overlooked. Every vineyard was measured we studied soils, altitude, microclimates, exposures. So it was really, really done an incredible work. And this represents a guarantee for you, because you know exactly what are you trying, tasting in the glass. That is the uniqueness given by the MGA. You always refine some specific character. Then vintage, for sure, given their shades, but we always find the same characteristic that makes the Barolo single vineyard so unique.
Just take a moment and ask yourself the difficult question when tasting Nebbiolo without food before lunch. Are these wines different?
Every MGA is an history. And it's true, because we have this perfect system on which, viticulture in our area, it's very, very historical. We have an history everywhere. Important making, for me, even the difference between when a producer wants to make a classical or an MGA. When I have an MGA, I trust that it's something unique. It's a perfect exposure. It's the old wines. But for me, this mix of how long you can see a label and how long a winemaker can explain to you that we have a really long history, it's one of the most important things. But the wines that have a lot of years, taking a lot of sun, are still the best. A good winemaker can really write a good history.
This wine was already vinified aside from the rest of the Castelborgo's vineyards already in the 1700s. So this means that already 3,300 years ago was the greatness of the uniqueness of this vineyard was already recognized.
Nebbiolo can translate something so specific. It's a real word, somewhereness in the glass. But I think it's more important to speak to the quality and the excellence of this area and how they're in this growing phase of really showcasing the uniqueness and specificity and why the MGA is different than a Cru or Climat.
What is the value proposition for a monopole MGA, because both of them have one, and how does that create an elevated experience in the wines?
We are the sole owners of the Santo Stefano vineyard. In order to give the full expression, you have to take away all of the winemaker and leave the vineyard to sing for itself. And in this Barbaresco, we had the least intervention. So yeah, I think that really, to wrap it up, drinking a MGA or a single vineyard wine can be this experience of pureness.
Sure. I love it.
Yeah.
Brunella is our monopole cru. And of course, a monopole vineyard, it's quite challenging because, again, we are the sole providers, the sole ambassadors of this single vineyard. But it's about, uniqueness and responsibility.
It's funny, Carolina before talked about the snow, and this is really funny. Imagine that a few days after a snowstorm, if you stay just in the middle, where this kind of amphitheater closing, and there we have a street, a lot of people really stop the car there and making a wonderful picture, because you have on your right, on this side, almost you can walk dry with your feet, and on the left, you can take your ski. And this is funny because it's really the few meters of differences. But this is an evident differences.
But let's talk dollars and cents. In the economics battle of a bottle of wine, there's always the cost of land. Are you seeing the MGA land values increase? And Is it uniform, or are some MGA more expensive than others?
My family was unlucky because we don't hereditate from
Inherit?
thank you from the family, nothing in Barolo area. So all the hectare that today we own, we have to invest. So we know exactly how difficult it has been. Then the price is growing now. Some MGAs cost around 2 million euro now just for 1 hectare.
Which characteristics of a vineyard have the most perceptible impact on the final wine flavor, and are those part of defining an MGA?
Yeah, at first, I think the most important variable is the soil. We can say in general that younger soil that are loose soils with higher percentage in marine substrate given more aromatic Barolo. In the case instead of older soil, that are the soil that emerge first, we find always complexity, intense, powerful wine, given by this kind of difference. Other things is the age of the vines, especially in the case of Nebbiolo, when the vines arrive around 30, 40 years. The vines arrive at the most of the equilibrium in terms of plant. We don't risk excess. There is a regulation in the production, aromatic balance, but also complexity.
It's also the exposure to the sun that makes the differences. Even a kind of microclimate, meaning that the sun is very important sometimes. Now it's less evident than in the past, but in the past was even very, very evident to see how some important area has a good luck to reach a more dryness situation compared with other. In the past especially was a big trouble, the wetness.
This is what I want you to walk away with. An MGA listed on the bottle is a more specific experience. The value of the specific experience is directly related to the client in front of you. If it's me, well, actually anybody on this panel, and probably all of you in this room, that's a value-added experience. Give my panelists a round of applause for their time and effort.